You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. This is your host, Llending Smith. Guys, I got a real special guest today in the studio. It's not just me. I got the one and only Phil Brooks. Phil Brooks, originally from Buffalo, New York, just moved to Dallas, Texas. And Phil is now in real estate full time. He's got a portfolio of 50 units. He is working it. He was working as a employee doing distribution in a warehouse and has now made the jump into real estate. He's part of the deal room, and his story is pretty incredible. So I wanted him to share it with you guys. So Phil, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Jenny, thanks for having me. Yes, it's awesome to be on.
Well, cool, dude. So let's give the audience a little bit of a story about what did your life look like? What were you doing? I guess a year or two ago. Tell us about that.
Yes, so a little bit over a year and a half ago, I was a full-time employee at Perry's Ice Cream. I was supervising about 30 to 50 employees, making about 70K a year, but I was working 12-hour shifts with an hour commute there and an hour commute back. Still breaking my way into real estate. I was doing flips still here and there. I had about 2 rental properties as well.
Okay.
So
Okay. So you were hustling, man. You were working hard.
yeah. So when I get off work, I get off at like 6 in the morning. I'll probably sleep till like 10 and I'm up at it again. So I gotta go back to work again.
I gotcha. I gotcha. And so what was the drive even to get those first couple rentals? Because I mean, you're already working 12 hours a day plus, well, I mean, I assume 14 hours a day because you had to commute there and back. Like, what was the motivation to get those first couple deals going?
So I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, you know. So I know that's part of a lot of people's story, but by reading that book, it made me want to add more revenue to just a W-2 job. So I started looking to, acquiring assets that can kind of bring in some revenue to kind of replace my job income.
Okay. And so now you're married, kids. Tell me about your family a little bit.
Yes, so it's a family of 5. It's 3 kids, 2 adults. We've been married since August 26th last year. We have an anniversary coming up,
Okay.
in a couple weeks. So it's been a year now. I've been married. We moved to Dallas from Buffalo. We've been here about 30 days now. We love in the city. It's a big weather change, but we love in the city. One of our daughters is in high school. She's going to high school. She's starting high school here as well and everything.
Okay.
So fantastic.
So let's go back to that first rental. How did you get that deal? How did that occur?
So a friend of mine was buying houses from the auction, and I started working extra job to save up. I was working part-time, just cleaning and everything to save up money to go to the auction and be able to buy. Because at the time in Buffalo, the auction was still pretty cheap to get houses. Now you won't be able to get it to the price I'm probably going to tell you I got my first rentals at. So my first 2 rentals, I bought them both at the same time. I paid $7,500 for the both,
Oh, wow.
and that was cash. They needed work, but it was worth. It was worth because I held on to them for years.
Okay. So what were you able to, like, how bad was the rehab and what were you able to rent them out for?
So one of them, I did a learning lesson, right? One of them, I didn't get insurance right away, and 30 days later, it was up in flames.
Oh, wow.
One of them. The other, I was able to fix it up for like 25K altogether. Some light rent. It was some stuff that needed to be done, but it was just like modern renovations, because we was only getting about $850 in rent for that area.
Okay. And then the house that burned, was it just gone
Just gone. It burned to nothing.
and no insurance
Still
because you
have.
bought it cash?
I bought
But
it
you still got
cash.
the lot, right?
It still had the lot. That's correct. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you say then, 25K to renovate, 7,500. We'll just say the basis in this house was 7,500 since you lost the other one. So
Yeah,
32.5, but you're renting it for 800 a month. That's not a
yeah,
bad
about
metric.
850 a month.
Oh, 850 a month. And do you still have that house?
I recently, when I say recently, it was last year I sold it. I bought it in 2013. I sold it last year.
Okay, and what'd you sell it for?
I sold it for 80K.
Okay, 80K. That ain't bad. All
Yeah.
in for 32, sold it for 80, plus rented out for 850.
Hmm.
That's amazing. Okay, so let's say fast forward, you got these two rental homes, and now you got 50 units, right? So you've increased by 25x.
Hmm.
How did you do that? And like, what was the catalyst for doing that? Like, and what made you quit buying more rentals? Why didn't you just keep buying single families?
So I got into a car accident,
Okay.
and that took me out of work. So I was out of work, and I'm like, man, I'm 12 hours. I've been trying to find a way out of, having to go to the W-2 because I just had no time for the family at all. I was constantly at work, and then I'm constantly trying to figure out how I could get more money as well.
Yeah.
So it felt like I never had time for the family. So what happened was, and Jennings, you don't even know this story here, right? So I'm like, I want to be able to replace my income, but I want to do it in a shorter period of time than I plan on just buying one house a year. And about 10 years later, I have 10 houses. And if they all bringing in, just say 800 a month, I got 8,000 cash a month coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my mindset. But I'm like, if I could buy one building that's already going to bring in that much, I need to figure out, this is my mindset when I'm going in. I need to figure out how to get a bigger scale up, see if I could buy multifamily because I was already into learning about private lending, right? Okay.
Okay, so you got to learn how to raise private money because you saw you needed a scale, right? That if you have, the down payment, but you put it all into the house, then you got to renovate it and you utilize all your cash. You're already working two jobs. There was kind of a barrier to entry there. Would you say that's true to getting to the 50 units?
Oh, to me at that time, it was a huge barrier. Like I had no clue of what I was going to do and how I was going to be able to do it at that time when I first was looking to get into scaling up.
Well, I talk to people all the time, and it's a huge obstacle, and I think most people look at that and they just stop right there. They say, oh, I don't have $1 million down payment. I don't have 500 grand. I don't even have 25 grand. Like, how in the world could I ever buy a 20 unit or a 50 unit or build a portfolio? Because they just don't see the path. And so the same obstacle was facing you, big problem. How did you push through that? How did you overcome that? How did you even think that you could possibly do this?
So I wanted to at least learn how it functioned, right? At least the numbers. I've always been really concrete on numbers, right? And I was taught before. So now is I'm fast forwarding into I'm already learning real estate and everything, even though I did the stuff that I did on my own. I'm meeting more people who's doing a lot more than me on a bigger scale. I met a few people and they've been telling me, hey, you find a good deal, we wouldn't mind partnering up with you. This is on a smaller scale. I wasn't thinking I could still utilize that same person to scale up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I still was looking to buy it in one place. Hey, let me just buy a 10 unit. That help me out, right? So I started looking in different groups. I joined my first million. I joined commercial real estate. I'm trying to join bigger groups to kind of see and be around people that's actually doing it. And I clicked on the deal room as well. I'm clicking on a lot of groups. So this is the part you don't know. My first month, I did not know I joined a private group, but somebody let me in the deal room by me just joining. Yeah, and I'm thank God that they did. And then so I'm still just fishing around and just trying to figure out how I'm gonna learn this. And then you made an announcement and tagged me in it and said, Phil, report to your deal sprint leader. And I'm like, what the heck is a deal sprint leader? What is he talking about?
So if you're listening to this, the Deal Room is a paid group. It's $400 a month. And somehow Phil got in there and now he's getting all the tools and the training, the mentoring, and we have these sprints. So yeah, I can see how you were confused. Like, wait a second, I thought this was just a Facebook group. All right, go ahead.
So I'm like, what is my deal sprint? You say, hey, report to your deal sprint leader and everything. So I goes and, getting part of the group, seeing what's going on. And when I say the deal sprint made me look at how I could accomplish being in multifamily, it gave a light off. It was people in there doing deals. I met people who didn't have a deal that was building their portfolio up and was still able to close deals. That just a couple months ago, they didn't have nothing. I'm meeting people who could sign on debt, who have raised capital. So it changed my whole mindset of how I'm gonna get another deal. Now I'm just from talking to them and being part of the deal sprint, it already changing my belief system already. So just before I joined, I didn't think or know how I was going to know a deal, find a deal, and understand the deal. Definitely close one.
Wow. Okay. So that's amazing. Okay. So then tell me about your first deal. Did you find that 10 unit? Like what happened?
So, so at first, I used to talk to someone, a friend of mine. His name was Jonathan. He said, "Phil."
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
listened to that podcast. Actually, it was a great podcast. And he said, "Phil, if you want to get to $1 million, right? Make $1 million, or at least get to the mindset of $1 million, you should be aiming to make 5 million. Do take your mindset that you aim for make the 5 million, because if you don't reach the 5 million and you only reach the million, you still accomplishing, you still building yourself up to be able to acquire that $1 million you're aiming for." So just being around people like him, other people who was closing doors, Jimmy Thornton, a few, Llending, it gave me that shift in my mind. Like, man, you could do it. Definitely, John. He was a school teacher. He was
Mm-hmm.
making less than me. I was making $70K a year, and he was making, as a school teacher, making less than that. So
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, is he did something to be able to acquire it. He didn't win the lotto, so he just acquired another skill. So I was determined. I was determined to learn the skill and give it 120% and get that deal done.
And I'll say, watching you definitely have. You've put in the work, you've educated yourself, you've connected with people, you've made the calls, you've talked to the brokers, you've uncovered the deals, you've raised capital, you've earned your way into this world, right? And I'll tell you, I mean, I'm glad you got that opportunity, but I'll tell you, a lot of people, they get that opportunity and they don't take it. They get exposed to the same things you did and they do nothing with it. So that's a kudos to you for capitalizing on that. Okay, so tell me, first big deal. After the 2 units, what did you close? What happened?
So the first one was 26 units.
26 units. So you're talking 13 times as big as your prior purchase, right? Is this because this is the next purchase that you did after paying $7,500 for two houses and then one promptly burned down?
Yes.
Okay, so 26 units, and where was it, and how much was it?
Yeah, so it's in Donna, Texas,
Okay,
and we paid 1.2 for it.
1.2 million. Okay, so a little less than 50,000 a unit.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the story of the deal? Like, where were the rents at? Why did you like the deal?
So the rents was very below market rent. So I was looking in secondary markets because I was looking in Houston, Dallas, things in that nature. I really wasn't. It was a lot of competition according to just me putting in offers and things on different deals in Dallas. It's just like I was getting beat out on
Mm-hmm.
every opportunity. And plus I thought it wasn't, I didn't have the experience and things in that nature. So I started going to secondary markets where it wasn't that much competition. A friend of mine who's a contractor in the GC lived down there in McAllen. So I connected with him. I know he do new development, he do multifamily. I'm like, hey, I'm looking to start this. I got the investors, I got people who will sign on the debt. You find me something down in that area, I'll let you do whatever construction. You could bid on a job, do whatever construction, and we'll basically do a deal together.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up finding me something direct to seller. I underwrote the deal and I learned how to underwrite this. So this is the deal one of the deals I used to put in front of on a Tuesday call that we had. I'm now a member. The first month I got in the deal sprint, but after that month, Stacy hit me up. Hey, we don't got you in our system.
Gatekeeper found you.
We don't got you in our system. We need you to join us if you're gonna be a part of it. And I ended up just paying. I loved it so much. I paid the fee, no hesitation. You know.
Right. Right.
So I'm underwriting deals. I'm sending my deals to you and Tim Vantel every Tuesday. And everything might question me on how you get this number, who you talk to get that. I wrote it down because I wanted to continue to be better and better at the underwriting. So every week I had a different opportunity, but I'm bringing y'all my deals to get y'all feedback, to get better and sharpen my tools to actually be better for everyone else that come involved and be a part of my deals.
So what Phil's talking about, we have like a Tuesday bullpen kind of call where people can submit deals that they're working on and they get experienced eyes looking it over because these deals have risk, right? Just because you bought something doesn't mean you won, right? You can buy something and overpay and not know your market and not know how to properly analyze the deal. And all of a sudden you bought yourself a big headache and a big problem. So part of what we're trying to do is, do the best we can do to advise people on how to make a blessing happen, right? Something that's actually going to cash flow, something that's actually going to work that you can sell for more than you paid for it. So did you submit this deal to the Tuesday call? Or you said you did, right?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And what did we say about it?
Y'all liked the deal. Y'all asked a few questions like, hey, how I got them rents, where I get to perform my rents and stuff from. But I think I had to get it like 100K lower than where I was at
Okay.
because I didn't factor in enough carrying. It was something in that I didn't factor in enough carrying costs, and I had to get the price probably like 100K lower for it to really make sense. And the seller ended up taking that lower offer.
There you go. Okay, so you just saved 100 grand right there by getting, input on the deal, right? And that is something that you can make a simple mistake, not factoring your carrying costs correctly, how much cash you're going to be bleeding in the front end before you turn it over, and that can sink a deal. You don't want to run out of cash. Okay, so I guess was he at 1.3 and he agreed to 1.2, or did he go down to 1.1?
No, 1.
He was at 1.3 and went to 1.2. Okay. So he accepted the deal. Now what? Now, how do you get the loan and how do you get the down payment? How'd you structure that?
So I already talked to different brokers, loan brokers. His name is Jay Deep. He was part of the deal room,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of liked in that market as well. We talked to a few other lenders as well, local lenders, because it came with 3 acres of land as well to build on. So we was talking to local lenders, and at the time the terms made sense. So I had my KP come in. They signed on the debt and everything. The one I built a relationship with and everything already. And they said, hey, if you got a deal,
Mm-hmm.
even though when I talked to them, I didn't have a deal. But when they said, when you have a deal and you have an opportunity, they'll love to partner up with me and sign on the debt for a certain percentage of the equity.
Okay. Wow. So you built that relationship before you needed it. And then when you had the opportunity, you got the loan. All right. So you got the loan, but you still needed, how much did you need for a down payment? 300 grand, 400 grand?
Yeah, so it was roughly around 345 grand, I believe it was.
Okay. And how did you get that?
Another person brought in the funds. So I partnered up with someone else who had the funds, who was looking for an opportunity, but didn't have the deal flow
Mm-hmm.
or the deal in front of them, and they put up the cash.
Okay.
And we closed. I took a very, very small percentage on that deal because I was still wanting to learn
Yep.
and everything and be able to, on my next deal, know the steps to take. So I took very, very small percentage, which I'm not mad because I took them same skills that I learned from that deal and I'm implementing on my 24 unit we have.
Okay. And so who's running the 26 unit? Are you running the deal or is somebody else running the deal?
No, they somebody else is running it. So
Okay.
I let a
So
team of other people come in. They already had, the asset manager. They already can bring
so you
capital.
leverage your knowledge to know that it was a good deal. You leverage your relationships to get the loan. You leveraged your relationships to get the down payment. And then you also kind of walked away from all of the risk of the deal because you're allowing them to operate the deal. They
Mhm.
signed the loan, they put the down payment down. You got a small slice, but you learned a heck of a lot and that sets you up for your next deal. Okay, so how are they doing on this deal? Like, is it going well for them?
Oh yeah, it's going well. It's cash flowing. The projections, they haven't reached the full projections, but it is trending up.
Okay. Okay. And what kind of market rents are you shooting for and what are you getting there?
Right now, the market rent they were shooting for 725. Right now, they around like in the sixes. I believe the average is around 675 right now.
Okay. So they're pushing it up to the trajectory. And then once they hit that, what are they going to do? Sell it, refinance it?
Refi.
Okay. Refinance and hold. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, guys, he went from having two rental homes, not knowing anything. But I think the catalyst, something I want to appreciate about Phil, and I want you to key in on, was the curiosity, right? That's where this starts, is curiosity, where 95% of people, maybe even more, 99% of people, they're not curious. Like they don't know how things work. They don't want to know how things work. They're too busy working 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, dealing with the stresses of life to even be curious about, well, how could I buy $1 million property, a $2 million property? How could I build a 50 unit portfolio, a 100 unit portfolio, a 1,000 unit portfolio over the next couple of years? They see like, well, I guess you got to buy that cash. And then there's pieces that come to light. Oh, well, I guess people can get loans on this. Okay. Oh, I guess people can partner for the loans. Oh, I guess people can raise money for the deals. Oh, I guess I can learn how to know what a good deal is and what a good deal isn't. I guess I can educate myself and I can build skills that nobody else can take away from me because you started with desire and being curious instead of, I don't know how that works and I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's amazing. Okay, so tell me about the 24 unit. You've learned, you've taken some lumps, you got a deal closed, it's super exciting, and now you're moving on to something else. So tell me about the 24 unit.
So yes, we have a 24 unit in Northwest Arkansas. We love that market. It's been growing. We've been looking deep into that market, doing our research, the job growth and everything in that market. We really was confident that we wanted to be in Northwest Arkansas. So through my broker relationship, most of my deals I get through broker relationships. I built them up. So now I get off market deals sent to me or pocket listings sent to me from different brokers.
Okay.
So her name is Jenny. She's awesome. She sent me this 24 unit. The seller was selling 50 units at the time. We put in an offer for all 50 units, but he decided to only sell one complex.
Okay.
And we wanted the other one more than we wanted the 24 unit at the time because it was performing a little bit better at that moment. And he wanted 4 million for both. But since he took off the 26 unit, we wanted to pay less for the 24 unit. So we ended up agreeing on the price at about 1.8.
Okay.
Him selling financing 80% of it,
Oh, wow.
him being the bank, and us bringing the other 20%.
And what were the terms of that? So if you're not familiar, right? Seller financing, if they come up with 20% down, right? So 180 times 2 is 360, $360,000. He'll loan them the other, 1.4, whatever, 1.44 million. And there's no bank qualifications, there's no approvals, there's no nothing. It's just, hey, you gave me 20% down and he gave you terms. So what were the terms he gave you on that loan?
Yes, so he gave us 4% interest for 5 years,
Wow.
3 years interest only. So after 3 years, it go to principal and interest.
And then after 5 years, balloon is due.
Correct.
So in 5 years, you got to refinance it or sell it.
Correct.
That looks like a pretty home run loan, especially with what we're looking at today. I mean, and guys, that's where you got to look at like 1.8 million at 4%. You know what? I'm going to do the math really quick because I think this would be interesting for people. Or go ahead,
I
Phil.
could tell you how much we pay them right now. We pay $5,045 a month, so a little bit over 60 grand a year, and that's at 1.3350 because we brought 450 to the table because someone had a 1031. They couldn't they wanted to bring the whole thing, so it had to go towards the purchase price.
Okay, so 1.335 is the loan.
1.35. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So 1.35 million. Yeah, monthly payment about $4,500, right?
Yeah, we pay 5,045.
Okay. So if you had a interest rate of 7.5, which is kind of today's things on a 25-year AM, your monthly payment would have been almost $10,000 a month, $99.76. And
Correct.
if we do interest only, it's $8,500 a month. And so you're saving $3,500 a month times 5 years, right? $3,500 times 60 months. That's $210,000. So essentially, because of the rate you got, it's almost like getting it for 1.6 million in today's market, which is great. Okay, so what were the rents at there? What was the occupancy and where did it go?
Okay, so the rents at that time was averaging roughly around $600. So he was bringing in roughly a little bit over $6,000 a month because he only had 15 units rented out because 9 of them was down. 8 was caught fire. The other one was just vacant.
Okay.
He's the doctor. He was managing himself.
Wow.
So he was bringing in the rent very, very almost 50% below market just to have people in there to maintain it because he had lives to save. He's a doctor,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was very limited on time.
And so what should the rent roll be if it's full and stabilized?
Oh, full and stabilized, well over 25K.
Wow. So going from 6,000 to 25,000. And where are you guys at right now? What's your rent roll at now?
We roughly around 18,000.
Okay. So you've tripled the rent roll, marching your way up to 25K. And so 25,000 times 12 months, that's 300K in gross rents, and cut that in half roughly. Your NOI, are you projecting around like 150, 160,000 in NOI?
Yeah, so our NOI is roughly around closer to 180.
Is
Just
what
because
you're stabilized?
yeah,
And what's the cap rate in that market?
it's 6.5.
Okay, so we take 180,000 divided by 6.5. So stabilized valuation is 2.77 million. So about 2.8 million. So the goal is to take the 350,000 or 450,000 from the 1031 and turn that into $1 million profit if you sold. Are you going to sell? Or are you going to refinance, or what are you going to do?
So right now, our plan is to refi in the 3 years when the principal and interest kick in
Mm-hmm.
and hold it for however long we want to hold it because we all are GPs on there. There's no LPs.
And the nice thing is you can make that decision, right? In year 3, if it makes sense to refinance it, fine. But dude, I mean, you might not want to refinance it because if you're still paying 4%, even principal and interest, that's probably going to be a lower payment than you. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in 3 years, but or what do you have left on the loan? Like 4 years left?
We just closed in April.
Oh wow, you
So
just closed in April and you already got the rent roll to 18 grand. Dang,
yes.
dude, that's amazing.
So what we did was 8 units was down, 9 was vacant. We went in right away. We had trouble. We ran into trouble with the contractor and everything. We replaced them and everything. But we was able to get 14 out of the 24 already renovated because of vacancies that came up and things of that nature. And we filled them up almost double. We got them roughly around 950 a month right now because we had to. At first, we had them at 11, and people was coming to come rent it out. But we still have bad tenant bases in the other units,
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't want to move in at the 1100 while we still have the bad tenant base in there. So we ended up dropping the rent to 950 Plus they got to pay
Yep.
rubs. And now we are full right now, put it that way.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
still we're not full no more. I'm sorry, I take that back. This month we have 7 vacancies come up that should be done with the renovations, and we're hoping to have them pre-leased by September.
And those are previous tenants that were maybe kind of weighing the property down, paying very, very low rent, $600 a month. And so, yeah, you think, oh, well, vacancy is bad. And it is if you get too much of it for too long, but they're also holding you back from getting $950, $1,000, $1,100. And so you got to go through those ups and downs to get that stabilized rent roll at 25K. And it takes time, but I mean, you're definitely making a ton of progress. I mean, from my point of view, that's what, 4 or 5 months, and you've already tripled the rent roll. That's amazing. So, and I'll say, in hindsight, 1.8 seems like a little bit of a high price to pay for the property with how distressed it was. So, what gave you the confidence to buy that, even though it wasn't cash flow? I mean, if you were only collecting $6,000 a month and your mortgage was $5,000, you got other expenses beyond that. What gave you the confidence to pull the trigger?
Okay, so one thing, the seller was willing to be the bank. So by him willing to be a bank, that cut out some fees, correct? We don't got to pay a lender fee, things of that nature. Not only that, we knew the scenario behind the property, as far as him being a doctor, is really the rents around the comps in the area is really showing 1,100, 1,200 rent.
Mm-hmm.
His is showing 600, at max at that time on a unit. So, and we had to when we went to go visit the property where it was at and everything, when we did our due diligence, we had the confidence that if it was managed correctly and brought up to potential of the area, because it was like an eyesore for the area, you know?
Yeah.
So if we go in, renovate them units, get a different tenant base with the right property manager, we felt like we can definitely take the rent roll. And then by having the experts in the market verify it, by them verifying that we was on point with our numbers, with our comps and things of that nature, made us more confident as well. Because now, once they had sent us that pro forma report and they told us what they can get us, and we shopped it around for different property managers, and we went with the one we felt more comfortable with. But when our numbers was lining up with the rents that we can get from the experts in the market who got to execute that and get us those rents, we was more confident.
Right. Right. Yeah, we talk about that. I mean, computer data and looking at other properties is great, but you need to know from a local, can I get 950? Can I get 1,000? Can I get 1,100? And verifying that. All right, man. Well, hey, we've gone a little ways, but before we close, I just want to say, what was your biggest, I guess, the biggest problem that you were facing? Like, rewind back to, you don't have anything yet. You're not in the deal room. You're not in the multifamily. You don't know anything yet. What was the biggest problem? What was the biggest obstacle that you saw to achieving what you've achieved?
I would say the mindset, constantly believing that I was going to get a deal because, as you know, I wasn't working. I'm out of work. We living off our savings. And it was the mindset to really believe that I can do it. I had the right people around me, the right circle. So my obstacles was just making sure I stayed in that mindset that any day now is going to happen. As long as I put in the work and keep doing what I need to do and constantly learn and bring more skills to values to other and be more valuable to others, eventually it's going to break through, right? So the more you put into something, the more you get out of it. So I would say my biggest thing was the mindset shift that's saying I can do this. I don't need to have that job as a backup, as a clutch. I just need to continue to learn more and be better at whatever I'm doing every day.
And that's the key, is like becoming who you need to be, becoming the type of person that is valuable in these situations, right? You started to become that in your, but just by pulling the trigger on those 2 rental homes, right? You got kicked in the teeth with one of them, but you still made it work. Yeah, and I'm sure you worked long nights and weekends renovating that house, but you had the grit to get it done. You saw, hey, I want to get into a little bit more complex field. I need to learn. I need to connect. And you lined up the skills to, is this a good deal? Identifying off market stuff, putting the team together. You're able to carve off a piece of equity for doing that. And that led you into being a major GP on this deal. So I love the story, and I'm super, super proud of you, super happy for you. So Phil, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out and talk directly?
If they want to reach out and talk directly, they can definitely find me on Facebook, Phil Brooks. I'm an open book. They could DM me. We could schedule a time, or they could email me as well. I'm constantly trying to help people grow in this industry, definitely when it comes to the mindset, because that's one of the main questions I get asked a lot by others is, how did you transition to having that mindset of being able to close a deal, even though you paying bills out of pocket, no money coming in at the time, and you don't have the down payment or able to sign on the loan.
Right, right.
And so I just constantly tell people, continue to network, continue to talk to people that's doing what you're doing, and just know that it might not happen overnight, but the more you put into something, eventually it happens.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, Phil, we'll put your contact info in the show notes so people can email you or reach out to you on Facebook. But dude, I appreciate you joining us, and to all the listeners out here, thanks for hanging out with me and Phil, and make sure you take some time this week to invest in yourself and to unlock your life. All right. Peace.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.